And very much James Creedon, gathering his stories and thoughts together, arriving on our plateau.
Good morning,
Where are you starting, sir?
Going to start with graduates in the UK. 40,000 of them will be without a job, says The Guardian.
40,000?
Yeah, the class of 2009, not a very good year, it has to be said. And what a lot of people are doing is they're asking for postgraduate places to try to escape the jobs market. In Nottingham University, applications for top masters have risen by 48% from last year. Then there's the student travel agency STA that says there's been a 14% hike in people looking for working visas just to get overseas, see if they can do any better there. And so you've got David Willits, the Shadow University Secretary, who's saying more university places. 25. If the Conservatives get in, we'll provide 25,000 more university places. But I mean, the question that came to mind there is, what's the point in having more university places if there aren't any jobs? I mean, okay, it'll keep people busy for a while.
I suppose another issue too is how do you fund that place once you get it? Because lots of students go to university and rack up something like £10,000 worth of debt just getting their degree.
So it's postponing the problem.
So basically, you're creating a big problem once you get out of university too, because you can't pay off the debt because you can't get a job. It's
It's a spiral.
It is a difficult thing.
Now,
but then again, a more qualified society is perhaps a better society. So maybe it is a good thing.
Yes,
There's a debate there.
It's hard to know. Another article in The Guardian, graduate survival guide with such useful tips as don't panic.
Yeah.
Be flexible.
Yeah. Somebody in a job is saying this, obviously. Yeah.
And the third piece of advice was get advice.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know if that's going to be much use
that's
to
the Guardian, is it? Yeah?
the class of 2009.
Well done to the Guardian. You know.
In the Wall Street Journal, there's an article: "Boomers to this year's grads, we are really, really sorry." So this is it gives various examples of baby boomers saying we messed up. You've got Thomas Friedman of the New York Times, who told one group of graduates, "We are the grasshopper generation, eating through everything like hungry locusts." So they're saying, that mistakes have been made by his generation, whether or not it was a general sort of consciousness by this whole generation. I don't think you can blame a generation really. It's more complex than that. I think
Self-flagellation there in
the
Wall Street Journal.
By Thomas Friedman.
There we go.
Moving on to the Iranian elections in Le Figaro, they're saying that this from the baby boom to the generation of the 3Ks in Iran. So they were born under Khomeini, they were brought up under Khamenei, his successor, and they brought President Khatami to power, hoping that he would bring reforms. He didn't in the end. So they're talking about this Mir Hussein Mousavi and the hopes that they have that he will bring reforms. The New York Times, Roger Cohen, who is in Tehran, he says that it's like a green tsunami coming across Tehran. You've got people in the streets, especially women, and the Daily Telegraph had some photos of women dressed in green and, hoping that this guy could, liberalise the regime somewhat. And so it is, I suppose, a sign that there is some degree of democracy in Iran.
Really powerful photos, aren't they?
Yes, indeed.
Like that kid reaching out like that.
Yeah, the children and women dressed in green hoping for reform, I suppose.
Great, isn't it?
Now, The Sun in the UK has a feature on the strike. This is very good. It's about football fans in Wembley who were, prevented from getting to their match against Andorra in time. So Bob Crow is the head of the union, and they have a sign saying Bob Crow is a...
He's head of the Railway Workers Union, isn't he, Bob Crow? Yeah.
So
Bob Crow is a...
You can fill in the dots.
Union leader, yes.
He's a union leader.
I think the implication is they don't like him. Yeah?
They don't like him. They were having trouble getting to their match on time.
Well, there you see, that shows that football fans do have a sense of humour and political awareness.
Yes, they're not going to say it out there.
They're not all hooligans.
No, but there isn't much solidarity anyway with Bob Crow. And the South African press in the Mail and Guardian is gearing up to the World Cup. That, of course, was a World Cup qualifier match there. Yeah. You've got a number of articles.
England 6, Andorra 0.
It's England 6, Andorra 0. I suppose what can you expect?
Just thought I mentioned that.
Yeah, Andorra isn't really the biggest political or football force.
You've got a point.
Or political force. Now, in the South African press, they're saying the global crisis probably won't affect the World Cup because fans will travel anyway, and in fact it'll provide a bit of a boost for the South African economy. But what they are worried about in another article is crime. South Africa has up to 50 murders a day, which is a higher murder rate than in the US, and so they're worried that might be an issue at next year's World Cup 12 months from now. So they're focusing more on the sort of technical issues. Now, in the Italian press, they are focusing on the visit of Muammar Gaddafi in the Corriere della Sera. They're saying that there's two Gaddafis. One is the man who made peace with Britain and the US, signed a deal to dismantle weapons of mass destruction, the head of the African Union. The other is the one which is very much in the memory of Italians as a man who, I suppose, sponsored terrorism from certain points of view in the 70s and 80s. And there's a photo of him in his tent, which he's mounted in the garden of the Villa Doria Pamphili. And I think we have a photo too of the tent he set up in Paris last December.
That'll be the same tent, won't it? He brought him out to the same tent.
And there's a photo of that tent in Foreign Policy. So
of course, Gaddafi turns up with a picture of the Libyan resistance leader who was executed by the Italians in the 1930s. A very controversial thing to wear when he arrives and is greeted by Berlusconi at the airport.
Right.
You know,
yeah. So
Italy being the former colonial ruler of Libya,
right.
you know, the kind of thing.
He tends to bring controversy with him, and apparently he's claustrophobic. That's one of the reasons why he stays in a tent.
That's
it's not just stay in a tent to escape the claustrophobia of a hotel room.
I suffer with claustrophobia as well. So don't crap me, James.
Well, I don't know, would you go as far as staying in a tent now?
I also suffer from talking too much because we run out of time. Thank you very much, James. I'm really sorry. Okay, take care. James there with our international press unit. Of course, he will be back with more tomorrow. Thank you very much. Let's get the main world headlines now. The situation in North